Good afternoon, ladies.
Good afternoon.
I just want to start out by saying thank you to each and every one of you who are here this afternoon, and for the elders allowing me this time to speak to you. You are an encouragement to me. We need ladies' help in personal evangelism. My husband always says we are the key to create an evangelistic atmosphere. If we don't do it, nobody else will. The Lord is depending on us to do our part. I just want to start out by giving you a little bit of a background history of myself and our family. Of course, I am Nicole Whitacre, and I grew up on a little farm in Cottontown, Tennessee. Most people are like, where in the world is Cottontown, Tennessee? Well, my best way to explain it is go up 65 north of Nashville towards, it's just right below Bowling Green, Kentucky. And so that's where I was raised. Of course, you know, Rob and I, we have the two children, Hannah, who is 22, and Jared, who is 18. When we got married, almost 25 years, it'll be 25 years in August, Rob, we got married right between his first and second year of preaching school in Austin, Texas at the Southwest School of Bible Studies. And so I moved to Texas, and I thought, oh, wow. I was not used to the big city. I was way out of my element when we moved there. So I was nervous, needless to say. And as you can tell, Rob is a go-getter, and he's ready to do everything. And I was like, okay. So I was well blessed that we got married when we did, and I was able to go to school with him so I could learn how to be a preacher's wife. And I did not grow up in a home where my mom was able to have a lot of company. And so I knew that I needed to learn how to do this. And so I asked him, I said, well, what can I do to help prepare myself? And so he said, well, why don't you invite some of the instructors and their wives over for lunch? And so that's what I did. And I'll never forget, one of the first families that we had into our home was Brother Gary Colley and Sister Maggie Colley. And she helped me a lot because she's a native Tennessean as well. And so we had a lot in common. So she helped me tremendously as we stayed there. And then after graduating from Southwest, we moved to Poole, Kentucky. Well, Poole, going again from Austin, Texas, which was a big culture shock to me, going back to a little small community. I was much happier in the small community. But there was only 300 people in the whole town. And so Rob was like, okay, I want to get to know the community. How can I do it? He asked one of the elders, and he says, I know what you need to do. He says, you need to go to the post office in the morning, and you'll find out why. And he's like, post office? Okay, I'll go to the post office. Well, literally, that's where everybody gets up and goes and sits in the post office every morning waiting for the mail. So I was like, oh, okay, now I see why I need to go to the post office. And so that was a great way for us to get involved in our community, to get to know some of the members of that community. And so we were able to convert one of the local barbers. We converted one of a Methodist. He was over their music department, and we converted a Catholic. And then we were able to convert his assistant coach, soccer coach for the girls there in Webster County, among many others that we were able to study with. And we lived there 4.5 years, and that was where Hannah was born. So we have a house divided. Hannah being born in Kentucky and Jared in Tennessee. So when they play each other in any sport, oh boy, our house is quite loud. But anyway, so, and then from there, we moved to Hillsborough, Tennessee, which is close to Manchester. And when we moved there, we took a little bit different approach because they were so involved in door knocking. And we had done some door knocking, but we had not done a lot. Well, they would go and do door knocking campaigns in different areas in the States. And we would always go to West Virginia every year. And so we got to really learn how to be more effective in door knocking with working with that congregation. And we lived there for 5.5 years. And from there we moved to Red Bowling Springs, Tennessee, where my children, that's basically home to them, because we lived there 11 years. And we were able to convert about 1/3 of the congregation there. So through the years, as you can tell, evangelism has been something that we love, and I guess that was kind of the reason why Alan Webster approached us, because he saw it in our lives. And when he approached Rob 3 years ago, because we've been in Jacksonville for 3 years, when he approached him, I thought, I thought, well, I kind of had mixed emotions, but I thought, well, but Rob loves preaching so much. I don't know how he would do with coming out of the pulpit. But we got to thinking, and we prayed a lot about it. And he said, Nicole, I really believe the churches need us, and it's time. And so we made that transition and moved to Alabama. And so if you would have asked me even 5 years ago if I'd be up here speaking, I probably would have laughed at you, because this does not come natural to me. But my mother-in-law was my biggest supporter through the years, and we lost her almost 6 years ago. It'll be 6 years in July from cancer. But on her deathbed, she pulled me aside and she said, Nicole, because we had just kind of been starting to do some of these seminars, and she'd kind of seen what we were doing. And she said, I want you to promise me that you will talk to the ladies. The ladies need you. They can get things through what Rob says, but it will be more personal if you get up and talk to them as well. So I promised her that I would do this, and that's why I'm standing before you today. We're so thankful that we've had this opportunity this weekend to speak with you. Okay, ladies, let's get started. Our first ingredient could be sending cards. Of course, you know, as Rob has talked, he's a big, he loves this one because we have seen much results from this. And this is one ingredient that we can start pretty quickly. Some of these ingredients that I'm going to give you today, you're not going to be able to do so quickly, but this is one that you can start pretty quickly. And we can send those cards to some that we know who are sick, someone who is dealing with cancer, someone who's had a recent surgery, someone who just needs encouragement, or someone who has lost a family member. And in your Evangelism Simplified on page 105, there is a prospect list of those who we want on our contact list. It is important to show compassion to those we want to reach. In Jude 22, it reads, and of some have compassion, making a difference. On page 104, you will see the contact list in your book. Ladies, this is where we need your help. We need names of people that we can put on this list. And that's what we started doing at Willette, and that's where a lot of our conversions have come from, was from the people that we put on this list. And even today, at Jacksonville, we're seeing many conversions from card sending as well. And what we did at Willette and at Jacksonville, the elders divided the congregation up into groups. And you may have groups here, I'm not sure. But at Willette, we had 6 groups. And then at Jacksonville, we have 4 groups. And what the main goal is, when we send a card, we want everybody in that family to send a card, even if it's a child. The impact that these people get when they see a card from a child is one that they will never forget. So if you've got small children, grandchildren, have them write a card, whether it's just something simple, says get well soon. Let them do that, because that shows them, it gives them something that they can do as well. And what we do is we meet every Sunday night in our groups, and at Jacksonville, group 1 is usually the first week of the month, and then it goes down. And so we pretty much know when our group will be meeting. And so we get together, and either before services, because some people don't like to drive after late at night, so they let people come in early, and then some people will do it after services. And so if you're like me, I don't like to feel pressured, so I take my cards home and I'll fill them out, because I like to think about what I'm going to put on my cards. I don't want to be rushed and just write something right off the top of my head. So my leader knows, they'll tell me, okay, will you send your cards on a certain day? And the reason I say that is we don't want to get all of our cards and send them all out we don't have 40 cards and send them all out on Monday. We want to space it out a little bit. So we may take 5 or 6 cards and send them Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. And that way they're not just so overwhelmed all at once. So if we found that is a little bit more effective that way. And remember, don't pass around one card with 40 signatures, because that's just not as effective as it is if they get 40 cards from you. When a person receives 2 to 3 cards a day in their mailbox, it will have a positive effect. Don't ever underestimate the power of a card. When we first moved to Jacksonville, we received a phone call from the local hospital giving us the name of Miss Bettina Bodine. She was looking for the church because she had previously attended one for 7 years. Of course, when we get that information, we kind of assume maybe she's a Christian. And so, but we had a hard time finding Miss Bettina. They gave us her address, but she lived in an apartment complex, and they would not give us the apartment number. So I'll never forget Brother Homer Smith. Bless his heart, I've never seen someone try so hard as he did when trying to find this lady. And I'm so thankful he did, because we should never give up on somebody. I mean, he was calling and he was doing everything he could because he knew that she needed the gospel. And so when we finally got in touch with her, we realized that her daughter basically just dropped her off and left. She had nobody. And so we started building that relationship with her. And that's when we realized she was not a member of the church. And so we asked her, said, well, would you be interested in learning more about the church? And she said yes. And so we started studying with her. On book 3, I'll never forget her response when she got to Mark 16:16, and she said, "Oh, Rob, I have that memorized." And he says, "Okay, well, can you recite it?" So this is how she had it memorized. He who believes is saved and then baptized. He who believes not shall be condemned. Well, Rob, I thought his eyes were going to fall out of the sockets because he had never heard somebody recite it that way. He knew that's the way they believed, but did not know that they would really say it that way. Well, they did. And so he got real fidgety, and I thought, oh, please calm down, because he was embarrassing me. And he started looking at her Bible, and I thought, oh, please. I'm over here kicking him under the table, like, please stop, please. So after she figured out that she had done something wrong, she looks up at Rob and she says, did I say something wrong? And he said, Miss Bettina, he said, can you just read that word for word from your Bible? And she said, well, sure, I will. Well, when she read it for the first time in the Bible, her eyes got huge. And she said, well, they never taught me this. And when she realized she was lost, we immediately took her and she was baptized. And we're so thankful that we had the opportunity to meet Miss Bettina, because I think it was about 6 months later, one of the members, because she had nobody, us ladies got together and worked together to just go help her clean her house. I mean, we were doing everything for her. And one of the ladies, I'll never forget, I was sitting in Bible class, in the new converts class, and Rob gets a text and says, we just found Miss Bettina and her house blew. And so she called for help, and they got her back, but she did not make it through the evening. So we're so thankful that we found her. Never give up, ladies. And that's one thing we learned from Brother Homer. I mean, he was persistent in getting her address, and we're so thankful because now we have that hope of seeing her again in heaven. The second ingredient could be door knocking. In Revelation 3:20, it reads, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him and will sup with him and he with me. We know that this is probably one of the hardest things that we can do, but it can be very effective if it's done right. Through the years, we have learned that the most effective way for us is when we want to advertise maybe a meeting, a VBS, community outreach, whatever it is that we want our community, we want to invite them to, we put that on the back of the house to house, which would have, you could put whatever you're advertising on this back page. And so what we have learned is we will take this, we'll take a route, because sometimes we do several routes and we can't get to all thousands of people. So we take one that we know that we can hand deliver these issues to. And that way we're meeting our community as well. And so this is kind of an icebreaker, because I know I have been to so many doors and I'm like, what do I say? I have nothing in my hand and it's very uncomfortable. But if I have this in my hand and I'm tell them who I am, and ask them if they're receiving this, and a lot of times they're saying, oh yes, we love this publication. And I'll never forget one time we were in Hillsboro, and I can't remember, one of the members hand delivered this, and she said, oh, she says, I love that publication. She says, I'm the local secretary for the Methodist Church and in town, and she says, and I put y'all's articles in our bulletin. So ladies, you never know what kind of response you're going to get when you hand deliver house to house. And House to House now is doing a annual door knocking campaign in October. Our first one was in 2019. I think we had over 300 congregations that participated in it, and we were able to set up many Bible studies, and I think we had several conversions due to it. as well. And then, of course, last year being the pandemic, we weren't able to get out and do it, but we wanted to do it again this year. So they set the date of October the 2nd, and we're trying to hopefully, they're really wanting at least 1,000 congregations this year to participate and go out into their communities. Also, in July, the end of July, we are doing American Mission Campaign. Rob may have mentioned this a little bit. What we're going to do is, because we cannot go into the mission field, a lot of the doors have shut to where we could not do it. We have partnered with the LAM, the Latin American Missions, and we are going to Rome, Georgia, and we're going to door knock that area. In the mornings, what we're going to do is Rob is going to basically train you how to door knock, and then through the day we will go and door knock Rome. And so, as I said, this is the end of July. There's information on our table about it, and so we're hoping that we will get a lot of people to come and help us, and hopefully we'll be able to do this in more areas. We could possibly do it in this area. You never know. But we're just trying to see, because we do need to evangelize to our own country as well. So we're hoping that this will be successful. You can go, if you want more information about door knocking, you can go to the House to House, Heart to Heart YouTube channel to find tips for learning on how to door knock. This is an excellent way for congregations to start and learn how to do it more effectively. This is, when we were at Willette, this gentleman, Gary Williamson, we came across him, and Nick had knocked on his door, and Nick invited him to services. And little did we know, when we got to meet him, that he was an erring Christian. He had been away from the church for over 20 years. So Rob and Nick Jones studied with him using the one method study, Does It Matter? He then was restored, and we feel like if we had not gone door knocking, we would have never found Gary. Door knocking reaches those who cannot be reached with any other method. The third ingredient could be mailing out house to house, heart to heart. And I saw a bunch of them on your table out there, so I know y'all are in doing it. And ladies, these are wonderful. I have seen a lot of ladies and men, and when we go to restaurants, they're putting these on the table. They're leaving them. So there's a lot of ways. Not only can we mail them, but we can give them to our neighbors as well. In Acts 2:46, it reads, "And they continually and daily with one accord in the temple and breaking bread from house to house did eat their meats with gladness and singleness of heart." Once a month, the congregation should get an email about all the requests for the tracts, the DVDs, or the home Bible studies in your area. And one thing that we've learned since we moved to Jacksonville is if we hand deliver, we're going to get better results than, because I know when we were in Willette, when we would get the request, we would just mail it to them. Well, we weren't seeing any kind of results from it at all. And so we decided when we moved, Rob says, he told Sister Deborah Rice, he said, "I want you to hand me the stuff that they want, and I will hand deliver it to them." She looks at Rob and says, "Well, we've never done that before." He says, "I know." He says, "But I want to try something." So that's what we did. And so what we learned through that is personal contact is always better. This is how we met Miss Brenda Glaze. Now, it took us a little bit to find her and where she lived, because we were not very familiar with the northwest, southwest addresses. That really confused us. But we thought we were going to this right address. We kept going to this address and kept going to this address, but nobody was ever home. And so we live in a college town, so we finally got one of the college students, and she said, "No, I'm not Brenda Glaze." And she knew we were new to the area, so she said, "Well, can I see the address so I can help you?" And so we let her look at it. She says, "Oh, you need to just go across the other side of the street. She lives over there." I said, "Oh, okay, thank you." So we went across the street, and of course, when Brenda saw Rob, because I'm always normally in the background, I'm not one that likes to be seen, so I may be hiding. And I knew when she came to the door, she was a little bit nervous, and because she didn't really want to talk, I could tell. So I like peeked myself around just so she could see me. Well, when she saw me, it was 100% better. She was ready to talk to us. And so we gave her the things that she wanted, the tracks and the DVDs that she wanted. And she, the first thing she said, "Well, you didn't have to hand deliver this to me." We said, "Well, we know." And Rob says, "Well, we wouldn't have met you if we just mailed it to you." And she goes, "Oh, well, that's true." And as we were talking, I'll never forget, one of the things she said was, "Do you do home Bible studies?" And we said, "Well, sure we do." And she says, "Well, good." She says, "I've just gotten married and my husband knows nothing about the Bible. Can you teach him?" We were blown away at that response. We were like, wow, we didn't think we were going to get that right off the bat. Well, we did. And so we immediately started those studies, and we were able to baptize her and her husband. And I'll tell you, I've never seen a woman more zealous than her. She was so ready to tell everybody what she had just learned. And so we were able to also reach one of their friends, Winford, and also her niece, Geneva, who Rob talked about in the last class. We believe that we would have never met Brenda if we had just mailed her the tracts and DVDs instead of hand delivering it to her. The fourth ingredient could be getting involved in the New Movers Ministry. You might say, well, what is a New Movers Ministry? Well, it's a program that House to House does each month. And what they'll do is they will send you the names of all the people that have recently moved into your area. I don't have the numbers right now, but on average, most areas is anywhere from 15 on up to 75, just depending on your area. But if you get into the program, they will let you know how many each month that move into your community. What we have learned through this is we wanted to get out into our community, and we want to, as a church, be the first ones to welcome somebody that has recently moved. So we have come up with this idea, and in your packet, you will have a paper that says New Movers Content, which I've given you 3 options. And this is some of the options that other congregations have done. But I'm going to show you, and I will leave this with you so that you will have a sample of what the New Movers Basket is. Now, I go to your local Dollar Tree. I don't go to mine in Jacksonville, because I have learned not all Dollar Trees carry the same thing. And sometimes, ladies, you may have to get very creative, because at one time I went to Dollar Tree, and Hannah and I were in there, and we're looking for a basket, just a simple basket. Could not find it. The only thing I could find, ladies, was an Easter basket. And I thought, well, how can I make this to look like a basket? So I took the bows and stuff off of it, and then it looked more like just a basket. So sometimes you may have to get very creative. But we buy a basket similar to this, and we put things in it like paper towels, trash bags, dishwashing soap, cleaning cloths, a window cleaner, toilet bowl cleaner, a toilet bowl brush, laundry detergent, and multi-purpose cleaner. And so what we do is we will, depending on the congregation, some congregations will have sign-up lists, and you ladies can sign up for maybe 5 paper towels or 5 dishwashing liquid or whatever it may be. And then sometimes the congregation will have the lady go and buy all the stuff. And then what they'll do is, like after a ladies' Bible class, we will get together and we'll make these baskets so that they will be ready when we get our list of those that have recently moved into our area. Now, also, there's some other important things that need to go in that basket as well. You need to make sure that you have an information packet about the church, whether it's the house to house, something that's got your information, a business card, whatever. But make sure you put a packet in there so that they know where you're located and things like that. Also, another good thing is if you can go to your local businesses that you trust, like someone that may fix a car, a mechanic, electrician, a plumber, a contractor, anything that you can think of that would help your local community, get their business cards and put that in there, because that's the hardest thing. When you move into a new area, you don't always know who you can trust. And so I know one place we went to, one of the ladies worked for the DMV. So she got that information and she put it in the baskets. So that, because everybody needs that when they move into an area, they're going to need that information as well. And also, once you deliver this basket and you get a good response from the people, make sure you immediately put them on your contact list, because you want to start sending them cards welcoming them to the community. Hannah has got cards out on the table for the new movers, welcoming them to our community, because I know, ladies, that's something you can't find, cards. So that's one of the reasons she started doing this, to help churches know and where they can get cards for some of these ministries. Let me introduce you to Miss Kim Bullock. Kim had recently moved into the area, and she had received the House to House, Heart to Heart New Movers edition. And then when they do that, then they'll send, 2 weeks later, they're going to send them a postcard saying the Churches of Christ welcome you. And on the back is your information, phone numbers, and everything, times of services. And so this is important, ladies, because we want to be the first to reach out to them. Because a lot of times we have learned through the years, this is when people seem to change religions, because they don't know really where to go. And if you're the first ones to reach out to them, a lot of times they will come and visit you, and especially if they're receiving this stuff, they're getting all these cards from the congregation as well. When she had just moved from Gadsden to Jacksonville, and really she moved sight unseen. And so us living in a college town, that's not always a good idea, because you don't ever know what kind of apartment you may get into. Well, that apartment that she got into, it was not good. It was very moldy, mildewy. So we knew we needed to help her get out of there. And so we were able to help her get a new apartment, and one that did not have as much health risk to her. But we realized during all this that the reason why she had moved was because she was grieving the loss of her parents. She had lost them, and she just could not stay there in Gadsden. And so when she started getting the new movers, the house-to-house edition, and then the card, well, she immediately called the church office. And of course, on our services, ladies, and I'll tell you, when it says the service is offered, we put on there free transportation. And I'll tell you, ladies, it is amazing how many people we have gotten from that. They just don't have a way to get there. And so she didn't have a car. So she called the church office. And so one of the secretaries said, not a problem, we'll get one of the ladies to come pick you up. And so that's what we started to do. And I think even this year, we've probably had 4 or 5 baptisms because of that, the services that's offered. So never underestimate just having that even put on there, because it's amazing how many people would come if they could have a ride. So once we realized that she just moved, the secretary immediately got one of the baskets because they were already made, and she took it to her and welcomed her to the community. And we started sending cards as well. And so these acts of kindness opened her heart so that we could do the Bible study. One thing that we learned about Miss Kim, that was during her father's illness, she had fallen away from the faith. We used Does It Matter, since she needed to be reminded of her first love. She was then restored and is now a faithful member of the church. The 5th ingredient could be making visitor bags for those visiting the congregation. In Romans 16:16, it reads, "Salute one another with a holy kiss. The churches of Christ salute you." And in your packet, you're going to have a list of things that you can put in a visitor's bag as well, so that you won't forget, because sometimes it's hard to remember what we put in these baskets. This is something that we just started doing while at Jacksonville. And because in Jacksonville, we have a lot of doors in and out of our building. So sometimes it's hard to catch our visitors. And a lot of times, you might tell them, say, will you fill the card in the pew back in front of them? A lot of times they're not going to fill out that information. Well, we were to the point where we're losing all these contacts. God is placing them here, and we're not getting that information from them. So we decided, okay, let's try something. Let's try to do a new a visitor's bag. And so what we do, here again, it's just the Dollar Tree. And I just buy the bags. Now I can't do all this. I have to have some help. But there may be a girl, a young lady, or somebody knows how to do it really pretty and can do it. But I have to have help. So we do this. We just get a bag, and then we put things in it. Like a notebook, an ink pen. If you have a pen with the name of the church, put that in there. Hand sanitizer, we need that now. Lotion, chapstick, Kleenex, mints, gum. And what we do is we get a bottle. And what we do with this bottle, does anybody have a Cricut or know what the Cricut is? Okay. All right. I see a lot of heads shaking. Okay. So you probably know what I'm going to say. You can get the vinyl stickering, and you can put the name of the church right here on this bottle. So they've always got a reminder of where the bottle came from, and then we put that in there as well. Now these bags are intended for those who are visiting from our local area. I know sometimes we have like a lot of family and stuff that visit from time to time, but the main thing for this bag is for those that are visiting from our communities. And what we do when we do this, when we see a visitor, we immediately now we don't run up to them, ladies. We've had people that scare our visitors to death because they're just so excited and want to get that information, it scares them to death. So what we've learned is if we just kind of let them sit down, just get a little relaxed, then we'll approach them, where it's not as like surprising, but we just we'll thank them for coming, and we'll start talking to them. And then also in that bag, you're going to have one of those, the cards, and get their information. And so you can either fill it out or you can have them to fill it out, whichever way makes them or you feel better. But if they fill it out, make sure you can read it, because so many times it's very hard to read people's handwriting. And so because you want to make sure you get the correct address. And also, once we get that information, we immediately put them on our contact list, and we start sending them cards thanking them for visiting. So there's another way that we're getting out into our community and thanking them as well. And because we not only want to thank them for visiting, but we want to also welcome them back to come and visit with us again. When we met Miss Ellen, we immediately gave her one of the bags to welcome her. Perry was not able to come at first because he was not feeling well. When Perry was able to come, we immediately asked if we could take them out to eat so that we could get to know them better. They agreed, and the relationship started to form. And at this time, this was right before the pandemic, this was that Sunday, we got together. Well, that Monday night was going to be the college football game. And so, Rob's trying to find out more, get to know what their likes and dislikes. Well, I knew when I heard football, I thought, uh-oh. And the kids kind of look at me because they know what's coming. And so, and I think Hannah kicks me under the table at this time. And I was like, I know. So he proceeded to say, well, why don't you come to our house? He says, when we bought this house, it has this big movie room in it. And you haven't watched football until you've watched it in our house. And I'll never forget, Perry looks over at Ellen and says, can we do that? And she says, well, sure, we can do that. So we just did appetizers, and they came over. And as we were watching the game, and of course, Rob's always waiting for the time that he can talk. So he was hoping that the game would get out of hand. And of course it did. And so he started asking questions. And of course, we realized that Ellen, she was raised in the Baptist church, and Perry was raised in the Methodist, and they had been going back and forth to both denominations, but they were so tired of not getting any Bible. And they said, that's enough. And so, and she said, we were tired of the fluff and puff. And I thought, wow, I never heard somebody, in the denominational world say that, but that is what she really truly believed. She was tired of just not getting anything out of services. And so Rob then asked her and said, well, then what brought you to the Jacksonville Church of Christ? And she said, when we moved to Jacksonville in 1999, we started receiving house-to-house, heart-to-heart. Ladies, it took them 21 years to set foot in the church. Okay, where they live is on one side of the town. They would have never known anything about the church. And because where the church is located, we're on the college side of town. So a lot of our community there's no need for them to go over towards the college side. So we truly believe if they had not received house to house, that they may not be Christians today. After we started building that friendship and they knew that we cared about them, they were willing to study the Bible with us. We baptized them earlier last year, just right before the quarantine hit. So that was a little bit nerve-wracking with all the things that were going on, but we stayed in contact with them, and they are faithful members today. The visitor bags helped us know who is visiting and who is a potential prospect for the Bible study. The sixth ingredient could be, when you see a visitor come in, always invite them out to eat, or have a family that is willing to cook and invite them over for a meal. They may not be able to do it that day because they already have plans, but tell them that the offer still stands when they visit again. In Luke 5:30-31, it reads, "But their scribes and Pharisees murmured against his disciples, saying, 'Why do you eat and drink with publicans and sinners?' And Jesus answering said unto them, 'They that are whole need not a physician, but they that are sick.'" Even Jesus ate with sinners and publicans, and we need to too. The impact this has on a visitor is usually one that they will never forget. They're not used to someone inviting them out to eat, or especially having someone invite them into their home when they visit different churches. It makes them feel like you truly care about them. What I would suggest for you ladies is to meet and come up with a plan for those who would be willing to take out a visitor to eat or have them in your home. If you have them in your home, ladies, my suggestion is work together. Have somebody maybe bring the bread, a dessert, a side dish, whatever it may be. One thing that I've realized, the more that we can get involved in evangelism, the more souls we can save. When we met Larry, Cora, and Dante Stamps, we immediately invited them out to eat when they visited the congregation. We did this so that we could get to know them, because a lot of times people are just not going to come out right out and tell you if they're members of the church or not. They're just not going to. It's not, they're trying to get here or there, so you can't do a whole lot of talking with them right at the building, but they really open up to you more when you're eating. And so little did we know that they were members of the church. They were looking for a home congregation. We just want to make our visitors feel comfortable so that they will be more willing to come back to services. If you extend some form of hospitality, they're more willing to visit. We have used this approach many times and have had many conversions doing so. And many of our converts have said, if we did not do this, they may not be Christians today. When we open our homes or take visitors out to eat, it can lead to a potential Bible study. The seventh ingredient could be doing some kind of community outreach to let your community know you care and where you are located. In Acts 2:47, it reads, "Praising God and having favor with all the people, and the Lord added to the church daily such as should be saved." We should try to develop favor in our community. At Jacksonville, we do 3 meals a year. And as you see here, this is our shrimp broil. Well, being from Tennessee, I had never seen a shrimp broil, so I was so amazed when I seen Brother Robert come out with these big pans and throwing this corn on the cob and turn it upside down and throwing it on this table. And I thought, and we're going to serve it like this? He says, yes. He says, Nicole, have you never been to a shrimp broil? I said, no, sir, I have never done that. So it was very interesting to me. So we do this, and then we also do this one. The Big Pig Day. They know I'm not a big fan of this either because they like to tease me. And so they said, Nicole, come here. I said, no, I'm not going to that refrigerator because I know there's going to be a pig, a full pig in that refrigerator. And I don't want to see it. So I said, no, thank you. But anyway, but the community now, they love these meals. But and then we also do the hot dog, chicken and hot dog days of summer. Sometimes congregations will do things like feed the first responders. They'll do back to school backpacks. They'll do a clothing giveaway. They may do a winter coat giveaway. They'll do a turkey giveaway at Thanksgiving. There's many things that congregations do to get out into their community. One thing that I would suggest when you're doing an outreach, make sure you advertise. If you're going to feed the first responders, go to them and personally invite them. I'll never forget when I first gave this lesson last year in New Hampshire. I'll never forget one of the elders' wives comes up to me and she says, Nicole, she says, we did this, and I knew it went sour. I was like, uh-oh, what happened? And she said, well, she said, we cooked all these hamburgers and hot dogs, and we sat all day long, and not one person showed up. I wished I had asked her if they had did any kind of advertising, but I don't know if they did or not. But at the end of the day, I think the local mayor showed up. But of course, they had lots of food. But I just remind congregations, don't ever give up. You may have to try several things to figure out what's going to work for your community. But one thing that I learned from Jacksonville is that they make up postcards for our community meals that tells the date, the times. It tells them what we're going to be eating. And what we do is we get them and we pass them out to our Christian friends and family, so we can personally invite them. And so, which I thought was a wonderful idea, because nowadays people aren't going to use a newspaper. Nobody looks at a newspaper anymore. And so you've got to come up with some way to advertise your event for your local community. Now, one thing I'll never forget when we moved was people were very curious as to why we moved to Jacksonville. Well, why Jacksonville? Why did you come here? And he would explain, he said, I'm working with the church there and house to house, heart to heart. And they would always stop and say, oh, we love that congregation. Now, these are not members of the church. These are just members in the community. And of course, Rob, being as curious as he is, he said, well, why do you say that? And they said, well, of course, we had just gotten hit with the tornado, and they said, when we needed help, we went to the church first because we knew they would help us. They said sometimes their own denominations would not help them, but they knew that the church would. Ladies, that is the kind of reputation that we should have in our local communities. We must strive to have that good reputation for the non-Christian. Our community needs to know that we care about them. We recently had a whole family obey the gospel from coming to one of our meals. We would have never met them if someone from the congregation had not invited them. Now, one thing that we have learned to be a little bit more successful when we do our meals, we would just kind of spread out and go and meet everybody. Well, we weren't getting much success from that. So we decided that we would find a family and we would go and we would sit with them and get to know them better. And that way we're building that relationship and that trust in us, so that we can get their contact information so that we can start inviting them to services. And as I said, what works for one congregation may not work for another, but you may have to try several things, but be patient and things will work out for the best. The main thing is that you're looking for that one soul who has an honest and humble heart. The eighth ingredient could be doing some kind of benevolent work. And in this picture, you see Miss Geneva and two of her girls. So we were able to help Miss Geneva quite a bit, and I'll explain here in a minute why. And the multitude, in Acts 4:32 through 35, it reads, "And the multitude of them that believed were of one heart and of one soul. Neither said any of them that aught of the things which he possessed was his own, but they had all things common, and with great power gave the apostles witness of the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and great grace was upon them all. Neither was there any among them that lacked, for as many as were possessors of lands or houses sold them, and brought the prices of the things that were sold, and laid them down at the apostles' feet, and distribution was made unto every man according as he had need." We need to come up with ways that we can help our communities, whether it is a food pantry, a benevolent building, a clothing giveaway, or anything that we can do that will help our local communities. Ladies, I realize the church has been burned out for so long, paying the light bills, giving food or clothing, giving gas money, or paying a bill. I know at Willette we had a benevolent building, and we would literally have hundreds of people every Tuesday come through that building. But one thing that we realized, we never got that information from them that was needed. And when we help someone, one thing that we have learned is we want to try to gain their trust in us so that we can eventually have a Bible study with them. Anytime anyone asks for help, we should always use it as an evangelistic opportunity. And we should always be inviting them to services as well. In fact, Rob talks to the men about benevolence, and one of his recommendations is when somebody calls for help, you immediately invite them to services. And if they come to services, then you get to know them. He even sometimes will say, have a Bible study. If it's during Bible class, take them aside, have a Bible study, do book 1 with them. See how truly they're needing this stuff. And it's amazing because I'll never forget, we were in Oklahoma this year, and on our way home, the preacher said, "Why didn't I ever think of this?" Because we don't always think about things. He said, "I don't understand why I never thought of this." He said, "The day y'all left, we had a lady call and needing help, and they invited her to services. She came with her children, and they were able to start the studies with her. And so of course they helped her. And so I haven't heard if they were able to convert her, but that's a way that we can help with our community with giving them the benevolence help. We will always, as I said, will help them, but we need to help. They need to help themselves as well by helping them feed their soul spiritually. And as I said, this is Miss Geneva Evans, who is Miss Brenda Glaze's niece. As soon as Brenda was baptized, she immediately invited her and her 3 girls to services. When she and the 3 girls came, Miss Sherry Harris began studying with her. It wasn't long after we met her, they lost everything in their home due to a house fire. And so it was a very, very trying time. She's learning the gospel. She's just lost everything. She's realizing that her marriage is not right. So we had, as a church, we were there for her. We rallied each other, and we got together, and we were able to give clothes and the things that they needed. It actually took her 1 year to put her husband away. And so she and the 3 girls lived in a hotel for that year. So that was very, very difficult for her. But she now, her and the 3 girls have an apartment in Jacksonville, which we're very thankful. But the one thing through all this is that we pray that these 3 girls, that they have seen what the church has done for them. And we pray that one day that those 3 girls will be faithful Christians as well. When we help someone with benevolent help, we should always pray that God will open doors so that we can study with them in the future. Benevolence will not bring lost souls to Christ unless we care enough to study with them. It should always be done to try to win souls. This is the purpose of benevolence. The 9th ingredient could be for us to be a teacher or a silent partner. In 2 Timothy 2:2, it reads, "And the things that thou hast heard of me among many witnesses, the same commit thou to faithful men, who shall be able to teach others also." We're not all going to be comfortable in teaching, but we can be a silent partner to help with the study. The teacher needs to learn a method and become very familiar with it. At first, when I started learning how to do back the Bible, I was always Rob's silent partner. It was not until our first mission trip to Jamaica that I conducted my first Bible study. I can remember how nervous I was in doing it, but I knew it was time for me to be a teacher. The more studies I have done, the more comfortable I've become in doing it. We definitely need more ladies to step up and become teachers and silent partners when teaching other women the gospel. I trained Hannah how to do one in Jamaica as well. She was my silent partner and was able to watch me do one so that she could. I told her that I wanted her to be able to teach the gospel too. Even though I knew that she had seen and heard me and her daddy do one, I wanted her to do one as well. And I'll never forget the preacher's wife in Sandy Bay came up to Hannah and says, "Hannah, would you please study with one of the young girls?" And Hannah agreed, and she studied with her. I was her silent partner so that I could help her in case she needed it. She taught this young girl, and she obeyed the gospel. I was so proud of her, and that gave her the confidence of knowing that she could do it. The girl who was baptized is still a faithful Christian in Jamaica. This is a great opportunity for mothers and daughters to work together in soul winning. There is no greater joy to be able to do this together. My suggestion would be to find out which ladies who would want to be a teacher and who would want to be a silent partner. Because you never know when you may be asked to conduct one, and you will want to be prepared when the time comes. We need ladies to be willing to teach a Bible study, or one who will be a silent partner. Which one will you be? The 10th ingredient could be someone who is willing to be a keeper. We need ladies to help with this work as well, whether it be a husband and wife team, or even maybe 2 ladies who have taught another lady. We just need those who will work to help keep the saved. What we normally do is through the week, we have assigned keepers at Jacksonville, and they will once a week get together with them. Of course, we have a new converts class on Sunday morning, and taught by one of the men or elders. And so they're getting that, but we want them to get, I guess, more involved with the members as well. And so this gives them an opportunity to get to know more people in the congregation. And what we do is we'll get together with them and we'll use books like Growing in Christ, because that's an excellent continuation of the study of Back to the Bible. And then we use The Beginning of Our Confidence by David Farr. This is a great tool for teaching new converts about moral and doctrinal issues. These lessons are shorter and take about 20 minutes. This gives the new convert an opportunity to open up in a more private setting and discuss personal issues. Most new converts are not going to ask questions in a large adult class. We never want to give up on the new convert that we have worked so hard to convert. We know that the devil will work very hard to get them back. In Mark 1, 9 through 13, it reads, "And it came to pass in those days that Jesus came from Nazareth of Galilee and was baptized of John in Jordan. And straightway coming up out of the water, he saw the heavens open and the Spirit like a dove descending upon him. And there came a voice from heaven saying, Thou art my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Immediately the Spirit driveth him into the wilderness, and was there in the wilderness 40 days, tempted of Satan, and was with the wild beast, and the angels ministered unto him." If Jesus was tempted after he was baptized, so will the new converts. We want them to become well-grounded so that they will always be faithful. At Jacksonville, we have those who are designated to be our keepers. As I said, we encourage them once a week to either go into their home or vice versa, whichever. And sometimes they just go to the church building. Whichever way it makes them feel the most comfortable, they'll get together, they'll do a lesson, and then a lot of times they'll take them out to eat. Because they're wanting to build that relationship with them as well. This helps build a close friendship with the new converts. The more they are connected with the members, the less likely they will leave the church. We have had much success with the converts remaining faithful when we have people assigned to be keepers. In summary, there are 10 ingredients to bringing souls to Christ. We need to begin by sending cards to those in the community, knock doors, mail out house to house, heart to heart, make and deliver new movers baskets, hand out visitors bags, take the visitors out to eat or have them in your home, do some kind of community outreach, help others with benevolence, teach a study, or be the silent partner. And lastly, keep the saved saved. I hope and pray that these things will help you in personal evangelism. And I realize, ladies, this is a lot to take in. So I leave you here with my contact information. If you need to talk to me or have a question about anything that I have said, please feel free to contact me. Does anybody have any questions?
So we just need to have the elders find out about getting us on the new people list to start this going.
Right, and Rob will be talking to them.
Just let them know right now. Okay.
Yes, he sure is.
All right.
Sure is. Yes.
I was wondering, what type of different services I know you said, offer a free ride to the church building.
Mhm.
What other kind of things do you do on there for services, just out of curiosity?
I don't have Jacksonville's, but this is, let's see, East Ridge. They, of course, put the Bible's correspondence courses. They talk about the different programs that they do. And then, let me see what this, okay, here's one. Okay, like we have the Jacksonville, the college ministry. We have the Bible study courses by mail. We have the in-home DVD series, free transportation to our services. and then like Bible literature on a variety of subjects. So it could be anything like that, that you do here at the local church. It may be, like we have the times of our classes, we have a ladies class, or, let them know about those as well.
Okay, great.
Mhm. That's helpful. Is there any other thing? I sure appreciate ladies being with you this weekend. And as I said, I'm always here and I'll help you any way that I can.
Thank you, Ms. Nicole.
Thank you.